I draw and paint on paper, walls now apparently. Yeah, a bit of everything. My name's Liam Stokes-Massey.
I think it was just decided. Well, Rich obviously is a massive Wrexham fan, and all the Wrexham businesses he's got are pretty, are quite football orientated to a certain extent. So I think he was just saw an opportunity. Obviously, having just won the league in the Football League for the first time in 15 years, made sense to kind of do something Wrexham related. So Rich messaged me. I messaged the Walgorh guys, got in touch with them and just said, look, it looks like Rich wants to change it. And to my surprise, because I thought they might have been a bit upset that it was coming down so soon, but they agreed that it was probably time for it to change. So like Nico Williams had been to see it, Harry Wilson and his family had been to see it, David Yuan had been to see it, which was amazing. And obviously, as good as it was being at a World Cup, the actual campaign itself wasn't much there wasn't much to celebrate, was there? So they were like, yeah, fine, like we probably feel it's time as well. So I knocked up a few designs, and then yeah, we ultimately went with this one, which is a tribute to a great man called Super Paul Mullin.
So I've been drawing for about 10 years now, 8 years as like a full-time job. But I did go to uni, study astrophysics to Cardiff, but it didn't really pan out. So I ended up getting like an office job, and then it was on like a switchboard. So quiet times. I was on the Welsh language line as well, ideally. So that was really quiet. So I could get a bit of time to like start doodling and sketching. And then someone asked me if I'd do a drawing of their daughter, and that was my first commission. So that was like 2011, I want to say. So yeah, so that kind of where it all started. And then I moved to Nottingham for a year, and then back to Wrexham. So I was taking on like commissions quite regularly, and I thought, I'm just going to take the plunge. Can't stand this job at all. So, and that's it. So I took the plunge in that August 2014, and then I've been doing it ever since. I remember being quite surprised at how much was going on. Maybe not initially, because I think it took me a while to kind of like find my feet and reconnect with people, and but I think that because I think Focus Wales had just started that year, the year after, Indegin had just opened, and so I could see already that there was a community of creative people that wasn't there when I left, like 6 or 7 years earlier. So it was quite surprising and quite nice, and obviously taking the plunge, looking back, it was, it's nice to feel a bit of pride, thinking, yeah, I did that, but at the same time, I wouldn't have been able to do it without like support, like family and friends, and but yeah,
I think with the last one, it was red, wasn't it? So that's like you've got red. There was reds, big white writing, bit of yellow on there, and then honestly, the faces were pretty much the same kind of thing as I'm doing now. So I've mixed 4 different shades of grey with masonry paint, and that's what I'm using to kind of like block out the areas. But it's just a lot bigger. Like the face is a lot bigger. It's massive. And we've gone for a black and white, because I wanted something that was bold and striking. I didn't want it too busy, because a lot of the designs I did make were really busy. My wife Lou is you're the first one to tell me. It's like, no, you can't do that. It's too busy, you know. So I wanted something that was like simple. And again, you know, with the time constraints in mind, something that's not going to take me weeks to do. And I think, you know, I feel like when it's finished, we'll have pulled it off, I think.
Basically, because with the pencil portraiture, I'm basically trying to take this photograph and recreate it as accurately as possible here, like on a piece of paper. And it's like, part of that to me is not particularly creative. It's more of a craft, hence the name Pencil Craftsman. But whenever I say that, particularly to my wife, she gives me a good shouting at. So I don't know. I'm very much all about detail, but yeah, I don't know. It's difficult. That I think over the years I have got a bit looser. So particularly with starting to do a lot of football illustration over the last 4 or 5 years. Obviously, you know, having an iPad as well, like Procreate, that's opened up so many like avenues and it allowed me to experiment more with colour. And I'm not the best with colour. I think I'm a bit colourblind with like greens and reds and browns. So this has allowed me a bit more stability with that. So yeah, you know, because I live in the town centre, I work in the town centre, I walk through it every day. And, you know, the stuff that you notice, it's hard not to be, like, inspired by that. So that's definitely an inspiration. When it comes to like, the football stuff, I mean, I'm a massive football fan. So, you know, particularly with what's going on at the club at the moment, it's just all amazing, mental, like still so surreal, you know. So as an artist who's a football fan, it just makes sense, you know. That really gets me going as well. So I've done a few like football illustrations from the club. Previously to that, I did a few for the national team. So yeah, I don't think that'll ever stop.
I'd say the biggest challenge for me, or one of the biggest challenges, is making something that looks good and will look good at this size. Because I'm not really a designer by trade. I'm usually like, oh, give me a picture and I'll copy it, or, you know, whatever. There's not a lot of kind of creative license that goes into it. So to make something yourself that's going to go on a wall this big and get seen by lots of people, that feels like a lot of pressure. This bit is, to me, feels like the easier bit, because I know that I've got the skills to kind of like, you know, make something look like it should, even though saying that there's still that apprehension when you can see the scaffolding come down. Because remember last time, because of the scaffolding, it was like an obstruction, so you can't see the whole thing, so you don't really know if everything's in proportion or everything's in the right place. But it was fine last time, and I'm sure it'll be fine this time. As I was saying to you before, I'm very, very proud of this grid. So hopefully it'll serve me well.
We had discussions with Rich, probably like a year ago, doing a Wrexham related one on the same, on one of the walls anyway. But I think once, because I was a bit naive, I don't know how long these things take. Basically, the funding was a bit of an issue because it would, you know, cost a fair whack. So then that kind of got put on the back burner for a while, and then Valgov Festival, Russell from there got in touch with me and said, look, we've got a bit of funding pot for arts and creative like workshops and stuff. Is there any project that you do? Is there, you know, do you want to come and do a workshop? Do you want to like paint well, one of Russell's idea was to paint on the kind of wall outside the cop, the turf, and then like it'd be an interactive one where people could kind of like come up throughout the festival, like add to it. But yeah, obviously an alarm bell went off, or a light bulb went off, because if there's one thing this city needs now, it's murals everywhere. So I put a thing out on Twitter. Rich Watkin from the Fat Ball said, "Oh, I've got a wall if you want to use it." I was like, "Oh, sound great, okay." So we'd had a few meetings. So then I kind of recruited another mural artist who had experience before, and then got the design sorted. And then for 10 days in a cold November to October, doing 12, 13-hour days.
Like, I'm a really, really proud Welshman, and obviously I'd probably say I get more passionate about the Welsh football team than anything else. But this town is so tied to the club. You know, like a lot of people, I remember when we kind of announced what we were doing, a lot of people were like, "Oh, why are you doing a Wales one? You should be doing a Wrexham one." And I could never understand that, really, because to me, like, because that time was really special. We just qualified for a World Cup. You know, there was this, it felt like there was a march, like an independence march, like earlier last year. And it just felt like, you know, everything was kind of going in the right direction. And to kind of capture that in a mural, and, you know, Michael Sheen had just done that rousing speech on, was it League of Their Own on TV? And to kind of capture that as well, you know, that to me, that was really strong and really powerful. Obviously, this is still extremely special. You know, the vibe around the town at the moment is insane, like so positive. And, you know, to do something that's kind of paying tribute to the club and like this man in particular, you know, it's really, really cool.
They go hand in hand anyway, to me. You know, I know, like you say, like art can seem inaccessible, but it shouldn't be. And I think in this town, city, it isn't. You know, we've got like the likes of Team Power. You know, the amount, because I invigilate in Team Power whenever there's an exhibition on, like once a week. The last 2 or 3 exhibitions have all had like local interest, like historical aspects to them. And the amount of people who come in and are like, "I've never been here before. Like I would never come into an art gallery," and they loved it. You know, it's that. So to think that me making football illustrations is kind of having that same thing, or anyone making football illustrations is, you know, it's not a photograph. It's something that someone's, you know, put their, like, you know, creativity into. Not that photographers don't, but like, yeah, to think that that's, you know, some 50-year-old guy who's, you know, not creative at all might have like a piece of art on the wall. Yeah, that's lovely. Like, because who knows where that, you know, it could start. So interesting art, going to galleries, who knows?
It's definitely hard mentally because the concentration, you know, so if I start at, like, if I've been here between 8 and 9 in the morning, you know, we'll be, weather permitting, we'll be here till 10 o'clock sometimes. So that's like what's that, 13, 14 hour day. You know, on and off, you know, having like errands to run around, get lunch and stuff like that. But it's more, for me, it's more of a mental thing, a struggle to kind of focus at the best of times. So to kind of sit here, you're on your own all day as well, pretty much, apart from when Lou comes to help. So you're not really talking to anyone. So you just sat there with your headphones, really. Yeah, so I struggle with that. Sometimes I'll have to get up and just have a walk, and physicality wise, it's fine. You know, it's quite nice to get your steps in up the ladders and that. But yeah, I'd say that the actual physicality of it's not so bad, I'd say.
Firstly, if it wasn't for Lou, then, you know, I probably would have packed this in ages ago, because she's always there to kind of be like, look, it's hard. Might be hard for a little bit, but it'll get better. You know, she's always right. So, yeah, it's that. I mean, Lou's like always there. If I've got any, like, if I need help with a drawing, like, you know, does this look right? She's always honest, and she'll always be like, something needs changing. She'll tell me it needs changing. Colours, especially, like I said, I've got a problem with colours sometimes. I'll be like, you know, drawing like the bit of grass, and she's like, babe, that's brown. It's like brown grass. I'm like, you know, but obviously if she hadn't told me, then, you know, putting out a picture with brown grass, it's, yeah. But yeah, she's wonderful. So yeah.
I know that I did contact the charity just to make sure they were happy with us doing what we were doing. So we told them it was going to be a Paul Mullin mural. So maybe they've passed it on. I know Rich went on, is it Heart FM? And he gave absolutely nothing away, apparently. So I think, yeah, I don't know. It'd be a nice surprise if he doesn't know. But I know Rob and Ryan are in town apparently on Saturday. So if we can get them to sneak past, like, that would be amazing. Yeah.
Learning how to do a mural, what's involved, that was a big thing. And like, turns out, you know, I was quite good at scaling up, which kind of surprised me, because that was like my biggest worry. It was like, do we use a projector? Do we trace it on? But going with the grid and, you know, working out the ratios, and that you know, I slotted quite nicely into that. So that was like a nice realization. I think as well, knowing or learning that, you know, because we had 10 days to do it, and it literally went down to the wire. So, you know, we had help from my wife, a couple of friends as well, you know, so I have to say, without their help, we probably wouldn't have finished when we did. Or if we did, it wouldn't look as nice as it does. But knowing that if I'm under the cosh and I need to put in 10 days straight of 12-hour work, you know, hours of work, I can do it. You know, that was a big one for me. And then off the back of that, standing there and looking, going like, you know, did that. That was a really nice feeling. It was horrible, actually, thinking about it, because of the nature of the scaffolding, we couldn't take a step back and have a look. You know, it was covered in mesh, so you could hardly see through the mesh. So didn't really know that the likenesses were there until the scaffolding came down. So I remember getting, like, the scaffolders came 2 hours early, mind you. So we were there, like, trying to protect it with the sealant, and then they turn up and we're like, oh my God, like, it's, you know, we've got 2 hours left, yeah? We need to, like, get this covered. So standing at the bottom of the scaffolding. I'm like, I can't handle this, you know, because if that scaffolding comes down, then Harry Wilson's like nose is like huge. Like I'm not going to be able to forgive myself, or I'm not going to get over that. So I was going to go and get a coffee and come back. But then, yeah, I ended up just like watching this scaffolding come down level by level, pole by pole. Yeah, it turned out, you know, it was all right, and it was like just relief more than anything. But yeah, there was one night we'd already started, and I'd spent the day gridding up the wall. So I guess this is where like the astrophysics stuff comes in, because the maths was, you know, helpful. So gridding up the wall and then sketching the whole image onto the wall. So that took me a good 12, 13 hours, I'd say. And then Nupty over here did it in charcoal. Yeah. So that's a lesson learned. That night I was in bed and I could hear the rain. Oh my God, that's torrential. So I got here the next morning and Gareth Bale had practically disappeared. So luckily there was, you know, the scaffolders had put a bit of mesh over the scaffolding, but there was nothing at the top. So the top of the building was exposed and the rain was just kind of like dripping down. And thankfully, the top 2/3 were all right, but I had to quickly resketch Gareth Bale just why I could faintly see the lines. So I thought I need to get it back on there. So I had to get some black paint and just like do these like massive strokes just so I can roughly see where he was. But it was, yeah, thankfully we put a tweet out on Twitter, and a couple of people got back in touch and said, yeah, I've got like a big piece of tarp you could just shove over the top, and that did the job, I think.
Since we've been doing this, you know, we've had a fair amount of people walking past quite sad that it's gone, which, you know, which is really nice to hear. I think, if I can be honest, it didn't bang, let's say, as much as I was anticipating. You know, kind of hoped that it would have got a bit more attention, but that's fine. I mean, it's people are seeing it throughout, you know, kind of like every day as they're walking past. And you know, you've kind of helped do something for the town that's brightened it up a little bit, I hope. But obviously, as an artist and as a kind of self-employed artist, you always got at least one eye on, you know, expanding your reach and, you know, getting seen by more people. So it didn't quite, in that sense, it didn't quite perform as well as I was hoping. But that's all right. You know, that's all right. That's not what it's about ultimately. Maybe this one will do more. I mean, the spotlight's on. That's on the club at the moment. I'd be surprised if this didn't get more attention. So we'll see. Time will tell.
Creatively, I mean, obviously doing the mural was like something special, and to say that I've done it, that's also a big achievement, I think. Yeah, there's so many like little things as well. Like, you know, when you like a footballer somehow sees your artwork and like interacts with it, that's lovely. I know in this day and age, you know, any artist who does anything like within a particular scene, you know, getting interaction with like the people who the image is based on, it's just like that's kind of, you know, that hit of like serotonin that we all feel. But like with football Twitter, it's so good because it's a supportive community anyway, and it's so direct, you know, particularly with the success of the local club and the national team. it's easy to find the audience, sharing like regular progress pictures and stuff like that. It's always, not guaranteed, but more often than not, you do hit.
One of the ideas we had was to kind of celebrate the club being, because obviously the success of the ladies team as well, was to kind of celebrate the achievements of the club as a whole. So then we'd be putting like maybe three of the men's players on there, 3 of the women's team, and like just at that point, I played about with it for a bit, and I was like, who do you leave out? Like, you're getting into murky waters, and then obviously doing it on your own. You've got to be kind of sensible about time scales, and whereas with obviously what we've decided on, this guy's more than worthy of a mural to himself. He deserves a statue, like outside the ground. I'm sure he will do by the time he's finished. But yeah, I'd love to do something like that, and like with the ladies on there, so maybe somewhere else around town. I know that there's potentially plans to start a trail, like a mural trail. So if locations are secured and there are other artists involved, maybe we could do something.
8-9 years ago, if you'd have told me that I'd still be doing it nearly a decade on, I'd have been surprised, and so I think that's a nice feeling. I think and you on that, you look back 10 years, when you see how far we've come, but there are so many different scenes, there's different projects that are supporting those people, T-Pound, the drawing board. If in 5 or 6 years, this place really feels like a vibrant, creative, happening city, that would be immense, because from a creative person's point of view, being part of that means so much.
Yeah, so we're trying to incorporate the charity that he's an ambassador of, called Your Space. His son's autistic, and whenever he scores a goal, he does a celebration that basically name checks his son Albie. So we've got a colour portrait of him doing that, and then we're going to stick the Your Space logo on here somewhere, hopefully with a QR code. So yeah, should be good. And we've got 3 or 4 days to do it. What day? Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday morning, say. Yeah, so that's where we are. Long days.
It's lifted the town or the city to heights that on a football level they've not experienced since the 90s, late 70s, early 80s, but I feel the most happiness for the people who have been through the doldrums. They've been there when, through getting relegation to the National League, the conference back then, and, to see this like Phoenix rising, it's that's great. And then from the artistic point of view, it's great because, we've got these icons now. It's only been a couple of years, but everyone knows Paul Mullin, everyone knows Aaron Hayden and Ollie Palmer. It feels like you've not had that level of, I get like those level of icons for such a long time. So it makes it a whole lot easier when you're looking for these images to illustrate, and you can capture like the magnitude of like their movement and their the stature on the pitch. It's great. And then obviously people can see that because they're happy enough to buy them, and yeah, it's great. It's great.
It would be great. It would be great. Obviously, if this stayed up for the whole season, and then a year's time, maybe do another one, that would be fantastic. But you know, it's up to Rich, and who knows what's going to happen over the course of this season. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see.